our AWOKH fashion color today, we are doing pumpkin, right? We're doing the green pumpkin with orange in, right? And when I do the green pumpkin with the orange in, and I shared a video on last week's page, right? About our pumpkin season. And we're gonna share today the green flavor of the pumpkin, because this is the type of pumpkin that I really prefer, the way that I prefer this pumpkin, with my sugar, with my butter, with some cinnamon, a pinch of salt in this. And this is the type of pumpkin that we're gonna share today on today's menu. We're also having today our braised onion, yes, with our lamb chop. We're having some braised potato, and we're gonna have our flavors all together with our yellow rice, right? Because that's the season that we are in, and that's what we want to enjoy in today's cooking. So in the kitchen, I've really started rice already. I'm gonna make a rice salad with that, and we're gonna focus on this type of green pumpkin. So we did a few different colors of pumpkin, and we shared a few different colors and flavors. So we were tasting the different flavors of those pumpkins. And when I'm gonna really now I would prefer this type of pumpkin. It's green outside, it's got the lovely sweet orange inside. And why sweet? Because when we get those flavors together, then we're gonna get that taste of today's pumpkin, and I really wanna focus on that. So let me quickly just get my lamb ready and my potato, and then we can do the pumpkin. And while we are doing our lamb or potato, with our potato, our onions, and our potatoes, we're doing it in a way that is fine for the flavors of today's table, right? So what we're gonna do with our lamb, we're gonna saute it lovely. I'm gonna add a sauce to that, a juicy sauce that I'm gonna make for the lamb today. And I'm gonna do the potatoes in a dry grilled potato, in the lamb, only in the lamb's onion juicy sauce. And I really want those flavors today together. What sauce am I gonna use for my lamb? We're gonna just check in the cupboard, because I've got a few sauces that I can add to my lamb. And then I'm going to actually introduce this lovely orangey pumpkin. Why are we introducing the different colors of pumpkin? So that we know what pumpkin is our pumpkins that we grill in the oven, and what pumpkins are our pumpkins that we really enjoy the sweet cinnamon sugar on a Sunday with a baked potato. So we need to get to those lovely flavors. We're young in the kitchen. It's 40 years. I had such an aggressive argument with my husband the other night, and it's my 40 years. And while we had the argument, I took my AWOKH cup and I slammed it against his ear. And while we were aggressive with one another, and I took that AWOKH cup, I was like, I am so allowed to present myself, and I've educated myself so thoroughly through that. And that even an aggression in our household cannot be disturbed with an argument that sometimes can seriously harm you, the person. And sometimes we have to be so firm with a generation of people that think that the power in a person's fist is now overpowering a RIBEA, ELISE, or an AWOKH business. You know, we're born from different wombs. He's born colored South Africa. I'm born more African South Africa. And this aggression towards the Africans in South Africa is sometimes revealed in our household. And sometimes you have to be so firm with a husband when you are intermarried. You have to be so firm with your direct representation. And I slammed that AWOKH cup against this left ear, and my cup broke. And I'm so angry because the cup broke, because now I'm going to have to get a new cup, and it was such a gorgeous cup. And I was so angry because of the fact that has he not listened in the household to the circumstances that I explained around us? Has he not listened to when I get aggressed and he get aggressed, to know where to step to. He stepped a little bit closer to me. And when someone moves so close to you in such an aggression argument, has enough listened the environment in the house already. That those arguments cannot relate into a first fight. You know, there's certain ways where people come too far. And that on Friday night, right, it was the argument and the really aggression. And it came a little bit too far in the aggression. Me and my daughter came from school on Friday and she had a little bit of play. And I was busy in the mirror and I was busy doing my hair. And like I always do, my hairs in the different colors and styles. I set it and then I do it again. And while I was doing my hair for the second time, and I was sitting in the mirror, it was my daughter's mirror of her bedroom, right? And she came in and she heard him saying that she shouldn't take the mirror. And then she felt obligated because she really to listen to him and doesn't want to disappoint him. And then she came and she took the mirror and I said, do not take the mirror because I'm now really sitting and really busy doing my hair, and don't be disrespectful in such a way because you know, really weak. And then we played around a little bit and she had a laugh and I had a little laugh. And then she held onto the mirror. And then he stepped in and he aggressed the whole situation. And when he stepped in, he came a little bit too oppressive close to me. And when he, hi everyone, when he came a little bit too closer to me in the lounge room, he really came to harm me, and I had to defend myself. And against a husband that is not really bold and bigger than you, you can't necessarily sometimes defend yourself, right? No matter how strong you feel that you are in your opinion. And he sometimes had to have tested it a lot of times in the house. And on Friday night, we really came so upfront, and I was really now not allowing it. And I took my AWOKH up and I slammed it against his ear. And I was like, really, that upfrontness when we really, I have listened to self in this house, and you can listen to the circumstances in this house, and you can listen to the married circumstances, and you can listen to the Africans that are managing, that are several Ramaphosa. They might made a post about it because the Vanderpump Rules had a television show in my house, and the television show stirred the aggression in our lounge. And I had to call the police now already for 3 times to our lounge room, only because of the husband that can sometimes lift his hands for the wife. And you have to know when to call the police in. The problem the police make is they come with the guns in the house, and they shouldn't do that. Because the guns are linked to aggression. And the guns has a signal on the gun itself. And when the police are in danger, then the gun signal goes off. What people in the police stations do nowadays, they mess with the gun signal. And by the time that you call the police to your front door and he steps into your lounge room, then the gun signal goes off in your house. And the gun signal are linked to wars, and my husband are getting aggressed. And but while he gets aggressed about the police and about the fact of different nationalities that stirs arguments in our houses, and the television that plays along, because the Vanderpump Rules really played along on Friday with the television program. And they have had quite some time that I'm watching the New Zealand television, and New Zealand television is really dismissing 70 people about it. And I really have been loud with everyone with saying that these games to aggress houses have really, America has had gunshots because of the police that came to their door. The moment the police comes to your door is the moment that their door are under the investigation of police and of aggressions in the country. And the police comes with a gun in your house, and that stirs another aggression that calls the police again to your house. Because of that aggression, whenever I talk loud now in my house to do a live stream video, then it's caused, and the police strikes a beep, and aggression is striking my husband, because my husband is then like someone who's in the army and has to defend himself. And that's why I've been very direct with educating New Zealand and all of those levels of what is happening around our households, so that we don't always relate what is happening around us only to natural causes. We've learned in South Africa that so much has happened as around us in South Africa that we don't link anything around us anymore to natural causes. Everything has got to do with the television program that was playing on the day. Was the police before that in your house that caused your house to be aggressed, and you and your partner maybe to first fight? Because the moment that your partner gets so aggressive and he's the man and you're the woman, and women are tiny and men can be a little bit harsh and body built, the fact of wars and the communications that people and men are in on wars are the same communications that the police then set in your houses, and that it caused so many African Americans to be arguing because of all the gunshots that has happened, and when the police sometimes really have stepped a little bit too closer than they were. meant to. So the one thing is the police shouldn't really come to people's houses with guns if it's not a household that are holding guns, you know, where the police really know it's gangsterism and things. So there's a lot of education that still needs to happen around our generation, but really those natural causes things, everyone's gonna have to get their act together and no one abuses no one's houses. And when that gun beep is still on my house and my husband goes under that army defense force mindset, and like someone who's in a war country, a man who's in a war country and who's to defend himself, and then I'm gonna have to be cautious of when there's arguments in our house and when I have to defend myself in such arguments and television in and everyone is just wanting to be live streaming into our houses now through television, then we have to be cautious about how television can also address our households. So that those Mr. and Mrs. Smith's films and gunshots doesn't really happen in our houses. Because then the knives are in the kitchen and the wife is still busy in the kitchen and then the wife somehow takes the knife out and it's a whole explanation there in the films. So let's quickly start our lamp. We're only going to do our pumpkin together with our things today. What spices do we have today, everyone? We're going to do our all-ground spice for our lamb. And we're going to salt and pepper our lamb with lovely salt and pepper. We've got the rosemary spice today. And I also have a little bit of mixed herbs that we're going to add to that. And everyone, if y'all are still in the room, press like on the videos. Yes, and if you're into our video rooms, press like on the videos also. Thank you. I add a little bit of salt to the lamb, and then we're going to cover the lamb and allow the lamb, like we always do, to do its amazingness as well. We're going to only focus on our pumpkin after that. And once we're done with our pumpkin and our potatoes goes in, and then we are going to conclude, and we're going to allow ourselves for our AWOKH fashion photos. And we're going to go and set our hair, style our hair in, and put our hair dookie on so that our hair's nice and fine for the AWOKH photos. What I'm now going to do is simply rinse it first for slipperiness. I'm just bored. So when you don't have someone that assists you with cutting your pumpkin, what I normally do is I leave this board wet, right? The wooden plank, and I'm using this wooden plank today. And I know this is my decorated wooden plank, but I'm gonna use it to just do my lamp on. You want this wooden plank to be dry. Let me just get tissue paper for my foundation. That's right. Now we gotta quickly close it in. What I'm saying is, if we do now our lamp on this plank, we want this plank as dry as it can be so that we can really complete our pumpkin that we're gonna add to our flavors. And let me just cover this lovely pan with the onion. I put everything in, everything saute, and it just do its braisiness, and then I'm gonna quickly put my all attention to this lamb cutting. And what I do, I stand out of the way so that depends, and have a good knife if you have to do pumpkin yourself. I wouldn't prefer people do pumpkin themselves. If you have a husband or partner, let your partner do pumpkin, or buy pumpkin that is already cut. If you have to do your own pumpkin, then use a bigger knife for your pumpkin. A very bigger knife, so that you can get control over the pumpkin. Stand out of your way. Normally we always say don't cut the pumpkin to your side. Stand out of the way so that there's no way that the knife can slip or anything. That's the best that you can cut a pumpkin. in RIBEA ELISE's day. RIBEA ELISE's day means in the season that there's so much happening around you, like a baby RIBEA ELISE, and that is born innocently in the world, and then the stories are so much around you. And then everything that people talk about you, like we learn in gossiping, it draws your attention to discussing. And when your attention is drawn, then you are maybe cutting the pumpkin, and then your attention is drawn to everything that people, you can listen in while you stand here in every communication, and it can cause distraction. So in the RIBEA ELISE's day, stand away from the pumpkin. What I first did is I first cut the pumpkin in half in a way that's also fine and safe for me, and then I stand away when I do all of those pumpkinesses so that the knife doesn't slip. And I also keep my hands away, yes, so that the knife is directly where it's required to be. When is it there? Okay, that's good. And then keep it up so that you can the whole time dry your hands, because slippery hands by cutting a pumpkin is not going to be fine. The cars are also driving here by this stunning road of Russell Road and Jutland Road. And the blades of those, and when you have magnets, you know the fruit is a big magnet. When you have a little magnet against your feet and this magnet, then it also draws attention. The cars and the bike drives, and it can the whole time shift you around. Because the young people are still sometimes playing those magnet games while people live in houses that the road is like a highway road. And while the road is exactly constructed in a certain way, and we know that people play magnet games, then be cautious, I say. And teach the young boys through your live stream videos to not drive by when you're doing your Sunday cooking. And to not play magnet games while you are doing your Sunday cooking. We learned about magnet games in Mr. Stoneman's class at New Orleansville Primary School. And a lot of boys played magnet games, and my husband reminded me of Mr. Stoneman. My husband's reaction on Friday was like Mr. Stoneman, that gave the boy a hiding, and the boys couldn't feel the pain. And my husband was now really trying to be like all the South African people and the people that wants to give this woman a hiding. And for men like that looks at you with those eyes, that has it against you the whole time, and they're your husbands, and you find yourself in the house with those partners, and they've learned it in the same schools that you have learned all of these trickery tricks and treats and games that people play. Then as wives, we have to be cautious, because this is humanity and this is the world, and families are everything that we learn in all of these colors, but we have to educate ourselves to be in fine environments for ourselves, so that no one abuses you and look at you as this African woman that must want to keep her man, can't feel the pain, and then the husbands love their hands for the wives like that. It's the same trickery games were like the magnet games. And we always say, such a little magnet. I posted that magnet on my purpose serving Facebook page. Such a little magnet against such a big steel fridge. The moment you come into the kitchen and the car drives by, we don't know why the human brain and the human body are connected to that amount of energy. And it can dysfunction you in the kitchen. And you sometimes like a dog that runs around its own tail. When every time a car drives by, we've learned in South Africa when I was a little girl, every time they drive a car by, you say one word. Every time a taxi drives by, you say one sentence. Every time a bus drives by, then you talk the whole time. And this house is exactly constructed in that way. The car drives by, the bus drives by, and I sometimes talk the whole time. It's a process of functioning around the cars. And people are playing that in my house. And lucky for me, I've learned all of those things when I was a little girl. So everyone who came to play around those games with me and who gave us this house to play with my life about it. Because remember, this magnet and the little magnet causes people to dysfunction. It causes dysfunction in the brain communication the whole time. It's like the cell phones in the human brain. And now they're trying it on me, and I already have a little bit of knowledge about it. You know about what everyone is trying around me. So I can be a little bit cautious and take the magnets off of the fridge, and I put the magnets away because it's gonna the whole time dysfunctioning in. It's like something that wants to control you and wants to walk you, like the car that drives. And that's why wives and we can be cautious because I've learned a lot about those games. And I don't know who tried to set me up in this house with those games, but it's fine. This house is anyway built for my AWOKH fashion, and the teams really build it for my AWOKH fashion, and people need to manage the processes when they build such a house in a way that is fine for me and in a way that doesn't endanger my life. And if my husband knew about this house building process, I don't think he knew anything about it, but there's certain things that certain people know. And then they shouldn't disrupt the process. And then you get to marry the guys, and the guys already know the process that's happening around your day. And by times that people already know the process that's happening around certain women, they shouldn't disrupt the women, because then we get married to the guys, and then a lot of things happen, and women die of cancer in the marriages, and a lot of things happen on this earth. And then as a woman, we have to be cautious. So now we've done the pumpkin this way, everyone. Let's quickly. And now the pumpkin is so lovely, so full of love. Love these cooking videos. We're only doing the pumpkin today. We're gonna only do it with love, lots of love and butter and salt. We do not have cinnamon, so we're gonna get all of those love, kindness flavors through. And then we're going to actually focus on the pumpkin with that lamp with our yellow rice flavor. And while we are loving all of these, don't forget to press like on all of the videos. Because my AWOKH business really now needs to be funded. Am I gonna do the pumpkin with the peels? Yes. At a time like this, when it's television cooking and home cooking and live stream cooking is now for me almost like I'm in my television room. And when I'm in my television room, when I'm in my live stream room, then you do the pumpkin in a way that is fine for you so that you don't cut your finger off on the live stream room and under videography. And if you know you want to do the pumpkin without the peels, then I would have had the pumpkin prepared before the time that we have the video. But because I do the pumpkin with the peels and there's complete education in it, no one should blade game around these educations in my kitchen. So what are we gonna do with our lamb today? We're gonna add some sauce, good sauce, a good amount of sauce that I'm gonna add to it. And I'm gonna quickly check if I have a chili that I can add to that flavor. And we all then want also the lamb's natural flavor for the pumpkin. We want the natural flavor. Yesterday, after me and my husband now had the fight, on Friday, yesterday, New Zealand's television was now structured in a way that I was now deceased and dead. And for people who plan against our houses, the program seems like it's been planned for years. And they have tried to play this game around my house for years. And New Zealand yesterday had the whole television programs where they explained themselves in all of the RIBEA ELISE. One of the television programs was a house program where people buy the house with a woman with a red belt in the Malvina shoes. Malvina only wears shoes like that sometimes. And those little red shoes, right? And I had shoes like that, and I tripped once in New Zealand in a KFC while I had the shoes. And it's just such a little, they call it a doctor nursery shoe. And the woman had my red belt on that I all these years had on around in South Africa. And the woman looked like a colored woman with short hair. And the person who presented the show looked like my Nibblebit's general manager, Sal Haltman. And while they presented the show to defend themselves, against their communications in RIBEA's house that now related to the Vanderpump, that now, according to the television show, this RIBEA is now deceased about it. And they're now telling the television and sharing the television shows through to the viewers. And there was a few television shows like that. The one guy looks like Torren Wells, and the other television show, and he was sitting with another woman. And the other television show looks like Tamar Braxton that was in the Big Brother America show, the program that I've watched on YouTube. The woman with the blue hair weave in and the pink hair weave in. That was in the Big Brother room with Tamar won that Big Brother show, where the one boy looked like my brother Zach in the Big Brother house, of what boy with the dreads, the Africanist boy. The other one looks like Life Churches, Pastor Paul, and like all the Pauls and Paul at Nublevitz. And then New Zealand said this program through. So if I was now deceased yesterday, then they now had a lot of things that they now covered themselves with, because they were playing games in my house with all of these technologies. So I really want to say that in a time where New Zealand is dismissing 70 celebrity shows, and it's got to do with people's houses, and they have to dismiss people, then monitor those people so that those people don't still play killing games in people's houses while they are dismissed out of television or so. Because we know technology can really educate us a lot. And for everyone who was not really preparing those television shows, they had to still air it yesterday because they were planning against me. And there was 3 people who died in Pollinate Street already around those games that television played in people's houses, and police played it. And the one police guy shot his wife through the brain, and he shot himself through the brain. And he was staying opposite the banker's house. And the whole television show where Malvina, Lachik and Abrams and them came to the banker's house, and the banker went to Johannesburg, and Malvina didn't go there. Malvina's is Wabudem's communication that I went to Malvina's funeral, and I was like, what is this Wabudem doing here? And then they say, no, they're catering, and they're Malvina, them's family. At the time that Malvina, Lachik and Abrams called my sister to sit by the table by them, and I had to sit there. And the auntie said, no, but Malvina, them treat them like that, and they're all family, and they call them drunk people. And the banker then lost his wife, his wife is, and his wife was not deceased, she went mentally ill. And she was working at the bank. She was a banker, and he was doing the tiling work. And New Zealand tried all of those games again around me again. The other wife was grinding her husband. She came from school, she's a teacher, and she was not really grinding her husband in aggression and argument. So New Zealand tried, and I really had to learn in harsh ways who was involved in playing those deceasement games that South Africa then sometimes called natural causes around our houses. And New Zealand tried those games around me, and some people told New Zealand to try and play those games around my house. So while New Zealand television are dealing with those people, really don't disturb our houses any further. The husband was a policeman, yes, and his wife was working for, I think, Pick and Pay Shoprite Checkers. Shoprite Checkers, and whilst he came from work and he came from work, and there could have been a lot of discussions, and then he got arrested, and then he shot his wife. And he shot him, and he also shot his wife. And my friend came to tell me, RIBEA, there's a lot of things happening around me. And I said, what? And she says, the police come to fetch me here the whole time to go on a date with them. And then when I get to with them, then they shoot people in the room next door when we're having sex. And then I'm like, well, what does that even mean? And how can you actually go on a date with people who are stealing one another like that? And then she's like, no, but they're really busy with odd things, and we have to be cautious. And then I'm like, oh, it sounds very interesting. And then I didn't know about these games that people play around us. And as an African woman, we think it was natural things. Yes, then that friend said, no, man, it's one time too many that this police are doing that. Thank God that my friend told me about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known about all of these games. Otherwise, I would have thought the things that happened was now just natural arguments. I wouldn't have known that household arguments are linked to television programs, linked to technology, linked to a policeman that comes to your door, and the argument are then against her sometimes because the police are functioning under certain functions, like the army, like people in war. And when they are in war, they are on defense mode. And when people are on defense mode, and you make them angry, then they can really not strike you. And the police came home, and they shot his wife, and he was still on defense mode. And the house opposite him was already the banker that already had investigations. And by the time the police and his wife had an argument, and his gun was not off because his gun signal was on, and he had his gun on him. And then the argument started that him to protect himself because of a lot of communications that people manipulated around them. And that's why I say that film television, don't play those games and arguments. Everyone, this is quickly our pumpkin, and our pumpkin is quickly now going to go into the pot. That's lovely. That's where we're at with our pumpkin season. It's autumn season. And we have to defend ourselves, yes. I said something very interesting to myself yesterday. I said, when I slammed my husband with that cup, against his left ear, not even his right ear, I learned one thing. I learned that the moment that he came a little bit more closer to harm me more, then my reaction to my husband at that time was heard. The communication in this house is not a communication that we are against one another. You have most heard my education and about business in this house. How can you even try to be so aggressive under an argument like this? And I slammed him on his left ear because I have a reason to defend myself even against you. That's how I reacted. And you do not look at a woman that has to defend herself as a woman that now wants to be the man in the house, because that's not even my reaction. I'm one very respected woman, and I'm like, but I have a duty as a human being to defend myself. And I give him the AWOKH because my AWOKH business means I have a right to speak and to present my own business in a way that is fine for me and in a way that is fine for my birthroom. And it's my every life journey. And on the life journey, we recognize everyone that are part of the life journey. And my husband has already heard numerous times that my education in my AWOKH business has been explained thoroughly. What is also happening around us when people nowadays have business can be a lot of things, that can cause a lot of questioning and a lot of disruption. And when I hit him with the AWOKH, then I was like, defending myself is of utmost importance in everything that we do as human beings. And if you don't recognize that life is within this human being, then you don't get so aggressive. You recognize life itself. Have you not heard that life itself is in every communication? In every part of us being human beings on this earth. Then I'm like, if I give my AWOKH education, I was like to him, if I give my AWOKH education, have you not heard that life itself is educated through it? Then how can you still get so aggressive in the house, Because here, right from wrong, all our AWOKH educations. And what can then make you so aggressive if you really want to harm someone? So seriously. Self, I recognized self. I was picking the cup and I was like, I didn't say it with all the words, but I couldn't say that. That was just my reaction. I recognize self. Recognizing self is my birthright, that you do not threaten me even if I'm too skinny. And even if I'm too tinier than you. So I'm putting my butter. I'm quickly going to be putting my sugar. And I put my salt. I'm gonna be soft with that. I recognize and I acknowledge myself. I slammed him against the ear. And then he stepped a little bit closer to want to harm me more. And when he stepped a little bit closer to want to harm me more, I looked him in the eye. And my look for him into the eye was like life is in this body and not death. And he stepped back and I was like, you came one step too close to harm me and you never do that. Life is in this body and he took a step back. You know, that took a step back education that I did. It's a very valid education. I looked him directly into his eyes. And after all of this, I said to him numerous times through all the communications, I said, this house that we are staying in is a Mama Anna Pilander process. And I've mentioned it on my page and I'm going to educate it on my podcast. I said, this house on my YouTube podcast because they're missing on a Castbox podcast. I said, this house, I don't know how the real estate agent owns this house, how the people own this house, but this is a RIBEA process. It's built and constructed in a way that the international world communicated that I have to stay in this house for my AWOKH question and in every communication. Every part of this house's building has got to do with the 1969 war that Mama Anna took and the earthquake of Tobak and Saron. It's an international communication and how my husband gets to rent the house and I don't even ever say, and I need to be at this house at this time in my life journey, and someone else owns the house from India. God only knows how humanity is managing these processes. And for me to sit at this house and to wait for my funds in order for me to either buy this house or to be at this house for the time that I have to be at this house. You cannot allow yourself to be unrecognized on your life journey that requires you to be certain places, and the world doesn't negotiate with one another anymore. That this is a RIBEA journey, and if anyone owns a RIBEA finance and a AWOKH business finance, then RIBEA needs to know where those finances and where those processes are at. And how these people get to own this house, God only knows. And how they manage these processes, and I'm sitting as the renter person who's now raised with my husband and he pays the rent in the house. God only knows how such a process are managed in the world. So big. And all of them have to get those processes right. Because between all of them, they have to know how is RIBEA going to fight for this house. And then for about 3 tablespoons. Pumpkin, and now we buy pumpkin, and now I'm my mama sweet pumpkin cake and mama universal sweet pumpkin cake, so no one also tried to oppose me. That's where we're at. About 7 tablespoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt. How much? 1, 2, 3, 4 tablespoons of butter. In the loveliness and kindness, we add a little bit. And our sweet pumpkin is ready. Our yellow rice already ready. And that's where we are at with our AWOKH cooking and with our AWOKH kitchen. Let's quickly check our lemon while our pumpkin is doing its thing because we're going to want our attention by the pumpkin just now. It's my life journey and how he owns it and how he's having the upper hand in my life journey communications. God only knows what the minute of this. how he has to pay the rent for it, and if I have to move out, then where's my communications going? Because this is where I had to be in this season. I'm at it, my money is not at it, someone brought me to it, and I don't know who else knows about the process, but it's a very, very, very interesting process amongst humanity. Really quickly give this story a bit more loving kindness. A little bit more rosemary today. We're not gonna take our potato peels off again today. We're gonna now just add our lovely sauce, and we're gonna prepare our potatoes quickly. Just over the peels, rosemary we have, and mixed herbs, and some salt because I really want this lamb juice. I've already had told that I'm now turning the lamp right to the other side. A drop of water, please, before we add that lovely sauce. That side. Let me quickly do my pumpkin, my potato. In this way, we do it. Let's go faster. Everyone, we're almost concluding this video. We're gonna do our rice just like that. With plain flavor today, only pinch of salt to that. So now we're gonna do this lovely potato in a juicy way. In this pot. Yeah, there's a photo on my Instagram page of my mama. I've mentioned it on Friday of my mama that were on that 1969 journey out of apartheid. This house is out of apartheid process, but it's my life journey process. And my mama's mother was working in apartheid years for AWOKH, them on ELISE flag. And this house process falls under our family's process of out of apartheid processes on earth. And how I then got to the house is built in the same way that my mama is standing on the photo on my Instagram page, on my Instagram story, where my mama is standing with looking like a little daughter that's at school in the olden years in front of a house like that, and her hands is behind her back like someone who's in prison those years, yeah. And this house is out of prison. Not with the cuffs behind RIBEA's back and RIBEA and Dorian in prisons, with the hands, my mama in that photo presents and say, with the hands behind the sides and left sides, and no one is in prison under such a process. Mama was a very, very intelligent person. Yes. So we're gonna take some pasta sauce, everyone, that we're gonna cook tomorrow night, and we're gonna do a few teaspoons of that into our lamb because we want our lamb a lovely pasta flavor. We're gonna take normal pasta bake. This is Pam's pasta bake, and we still have to, the Pam products New Zealand needs to find out what were they managing my household finances around the Pam products, and I didn't have money, and the Pam products all cost $1. And Pammy Tani, my cousin, and Pammy Mbabani, Malvina's cousin. And when I don't have money and the food costs $1, and I can't even pay for the food, then the process is also still not fine for me. So someone who's managing that process needs to find out what they're doing. Between South Africa and New Zealand, why I don't have money, and why me and my husband, when me and my husband gets addressed, where am I supposed to go? New Zealand has now messed with my life with communications about me. I have now been on my AWOKH business. New Zealand has started my career in offices in New Zealand. So where does such a person, this is not my business season, where's my business funds at with AWOKH? Because New Zealand educates themselves against the person rather than listening and following the processes. By such a time, I posted on my Facebook page that then Cyril Ramaphosa then need to step in to manage the process. Because it's an out of apartheid process, and it needs to include the people that's in the country and the South African communications, because New Zealand is an international communication house, and when the international house and offices functions also from New Zealand need to have processes right for a person RIBEA ELISE. Because by the moment on a Monday that the office communications of New Zealand goes to the international offices, and RIBEA is not recognized, and RIBEA has to sit in South Africa in poverty because he's not recognized under those communications, because New Zealand manages it still in a way that is against the RIBEA, then in this season New Zealand get that whole process right. Because New Zealand's Monday is, when it's Sunday night by us, it's Saturday morning and Sunday morning in South Africa. When it's Monday morning in New Zealand, then it's Sunday evening. And by the next Monday that the whole world gets up, then the processes need to be communicated in a way that is non-addressed the one to the other in the circumstances of the international world. That includes where the Monday starts, where the office begins, where the processes of office functions from, to the international processes. So New Zealand don't tell RIBEA, what are you doing with Dorian in New Zealand? Because we invited Dorian. RIBEA is recognized under the birth womb and under my life journey that called me to New Zealand itself. So now I'm going to put this lovely pasta sauce in, everyone. And our lamb chops just for lovely flavor. But we still love our lamb beefy flavor, and we're not putting a lot. We're just getting enough of this pasta sauce in so that we can get enough of this lamb sauce. And when we put a pasta sauce like this in, normally we only gonna allow ourselves to add not a dash of sugar, we don't want that, a dash of strawberry jam. Normal red strawberry jam that goes along with the pasta itself, that adds a little bit of the sweetness to that is tangy in this food. A little bit of strawberry jam. And with that strawberry jam, you know, almost like marinate the lamb chop. And the lamb chop is now going to cook in those flavors. And it's only on the lamb because we don't want the sauce too much on the potato, but we're going to add the potato to that. Let me just quickly say that before we conclude with this video. And that's where the lamb is at. I'm really now just going to add this potato to that. And we're going to get these lovely flavors because we don't want to over flavor the food. And we want to share pumpkin, and we don't want no sweetness, and we don't add sugar. If we have jam, we add jam. If we have sugar, we add half a teaspoon of sugar, not a lot of sugar. Half a teaspoon or teaspoon of sugar to this flavor. Now let's take my potatoes and that. Oh, pumpkin, I can feel that you are feeling it. Give this pumpkin quickly some love. That's fine. I put a little bit of mix up over my potatoes again. I put a dash of salt over my potato because we really don't want the potato to be fresh. So that's more than enough. Put a dash of my rosemary spice over my potatoes again. And I put a dash of, not a dash of anything else, that's enough. A dash of water, this and once over that. Extra, that juicy, functional juicy. For our lamb piece to find that lovely flavor. And everyone, take a look again at this pot before we're gonna quickly conclude. And that's all. There's our potato set. There's everything in it. There's our flavor set. We're going to just cover the pot. And we want those juiciness of the lamb to give us a little bit more kindness further. And that's about that for our lamb and our potatoes. Whatever pumpkin been doing, quickly put my spice in, the spiciness. And the packet says mixed herb and something herb and something spicy. So this goes into the fridge. Yes, our pasta sauce, lovely, because tomorrow night we're cooking pasta with paprika. Oh, when did we do paprika? With tandoori spice, it was tasting very nice. Why did we cook with that this week? Tomorrow night we're gonna cook like that again. Pasta with tandoori spice in. And in the tandoori spice, let's rinse the best. Otherwise our pasta is ready. Where's our pumpkin tea? Okay. Everyone our pumpkin is looking lovely. Let me share that quickly with y'all while I put my stove on number 1. And everything is looking lovely. Our pumpkin is looking lovely. Our pumpkin is smelling lovely. Everything about our pumpkin is lovely. We're going to now wait for our lamb. Our lamb is going to give us that. And then we're going to have our pumpkin prepare itself a little bit further. Lovely, it looks lovely. Oh, very nice. Okay. Give me all of lovely. Let's quickly do that. And that's where we want the pumpkin to be, right? It's lovely. It's full of love, full of kindness. We're going to leave the lid on because we're going to add a little drizzle of bad butter later. And we're going to warm our pumpkin before we're going to serve the pumpkin. That's where we want our sweet pumpkin. We don't want any other funninesses with our sweet pumpkin. We love every part of our pumpkin color, and our pumpkin wanted to overgrow and over taste there underneath, but we're going to just check every part of every pumpkin so that we don't get spoiled pumpkin. And so that caramelized lovely flavor is still looking very nice and very cooked and very fine. And we don't want to now warm it any further. We don't now want to cook it any further. It's nice and soft. And that's how we want the pumpkin. If we're going to warm it later, we put the plate on a 1 and we warm and we stand there. And we turn the pumpkin this part. We love and enjoy every part of it, but we don't want the pumpkin to overcook. So by the moment that your pumpkin do that, then you already get your pumpkin off and you already sweet your pumpkin off, because by this time your pumpkin is really soft already and it's really well cooked through. So you really don't need any one of those flavors. What you don't sometimes need in the pumpkin is when this is now going to make the pumpkin a little bit odd, you can take this off. If you love the caramelized pumpkin, then you can leave that on. But you don't cook your pumpkin any further than this stage. We leave it warm, or you will either microwave warm it later so that we don't get a spoiled pumpkin if you want to warm it on the stove, or we add more butter so that there's more juiciness in, so that we can warm it on a plate number 1, and we add our lamb chop with our potato, with our rice, with that lovely juicy flavor. That's cooking with RIBEA ELISE today, and everyone, we're going to share these photos also. Have an amazing AWOKH Sunday with us.